You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Welcome to another QB Power Hour. Today we're going to be talking about modern view reports and the new Invoice, quote unquote, experience, because it is an experience. These are some core functions. These are some core functions that are definitely necessary for accountants and small businesses. So we want to make sure that we unpack what's changing and what's been moved and what you can't do with some of these functions. And it's going to be jam-packed today with the content. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Michelle, introduce yourself.
Welcome, everybody. And I had my video off today because I'm at the Lake of the Ozarks on a little camping trip this week. And I'm like, Dan, I don't have that cool Starlink internet. I just have the Verizon hotspot. And my Verizon hotspot works pretty good, but not good enough for the video. So I won't have my video going today. But anyway, I am Michelle Long, owner of Long for Six Notes, and very glad to be with you guys all today. You guys know me. So Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Dan DeLong, owner of DanWitt and School of Bookkeeping. Worked at Intuit for nearly 18 years, co-hosting today also at the Workshop Wednesdays over at School of Bookkeeping as well. A couple of details. We're every other Tuesday at noon Eastern. Our upcoming webinars for working on a CPE sponsor, and hopefully that will turn into the first webinar of each month will be eligible for CPE. So look forward to those changes so that you can get some CPE credit just by coming to the QB Power Hour. You can always check the website for upcoming events. Our main focus is, of course, books, tips, tricks, what's new, troubleshooting, but also we want to make sure that people are aware of the marketing practices and pricing and apps that work with QuickBooks as well. So if you need PDFs of the slides, recordings, a podcast, if you didn't join us today and you want to catch up with us later, you can always go to qbpowerhour.com/resources for that. Some of the Q&A or some of the housekeeping today, if you have some questions, Q&A, please use that, so that it makes it easier for us to monitor that and respond to it and follow up with that if that is indeed the case. If you have some comments, some general grumblings about the changes that we're talking about, which is totally fine, please put those in the chat. And then, of course, we have the links there for the handouts as well. Something new for this year, we are simulcasting, which is what causes the awkwardness when after the video and sharing, where we have to share it into the Facebook group. As of 4/22 last month, we can't stream directly into the Facebook group. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for that. So we have to do some extra gyrations in order to get it into our Facebook group as well. If you do, and if you are watching it in the Facebook group and you want to be able to engage in the conversation and we know who you are, you will need to scan that QR code and allow Facebook to be able to see who you are. Otherwise, it'll just show up as a Facebook user, and then that's really a nebulous thing, right? We also have a QB Power Hour store. We invite you to check that out as well. So our agenda today, we want to lead off with the changes to the invoicing templates and the changes to the invoice experience, because this is a core function, not just for accountants, but also for small business owners. The money inside of things is really what people get into business for. So these changes are pretty drastic, and we want to make sure that we cover and unpack that, where we'll talk about the new features. Where did it go? Those types of things. I used to use it here. Where did it go now? Because that is part of the challenge. When there is a change like this, and in this case, it's a very drastic change, to make sure that some of that functionality just moved as opposed to going away. And then unfortunately, because of this, there is what can't I do now? And we want to talk a little bit about that And then we'll talk about the modern reports and open it up for Q&A. Hopefully we'll get through these questions as we unpack this, but there's always the water cooler discussion that goes on with trying to do this and this doesn't work. So let's put that in the Q&A for that. Now let's launch first poll. What platform do you use? This is a two-parter. And what are your primary interactions with your client or you services that you offer?
While you're looking for the poll to launch, all of it's mentioning, I am covering
it's launched.
Okay. I am covering reports at one of the QB, and one of the sessions at Scaling New Heights on QBO Advanced. So I'll be covering some of the reports. If you guys want to join me at the QBO Advanced session on Sunday, and I'm doing tips and tricks and hacks on Wednesday, if you want to join me. And I know Dan's doing some sessions at Scaling New Heights as well. So I hope we're going to see some of you guys there.
Absolutely. There we are. Yeah, I just had an extra slide in there for some reason. And hopefully I didn't delete some important content. But so we wanted to lead off with the new experience of invoices and estimates. This all started, it's been ongoing, but around May 6th was like the threshold or the cutoff date where new companies are getting the new experience. You can now opt in, but that's a one-way ticket to update it. It affects invoices and estimates. There's some payments enhancements, which if we look back or try to contemplate why make all these changes to invoicing, the payments is part of that. But it's always been, and I guess, Michelle, you probably speak to this as well. The invoice template customization has always had its fair share of feedback, especially when you compare that to the desktop, right? In QuickBooks Desktop, you have the layout designer. You can be very prescriptive on the size of the column, the position of the column, the color, and all of those things. So especially for desktop migrators who are coming from desktop, that's part of the surprise of QuickBooks Online is of what the things that you can't do when it comes to sales forms customization. Would you agree with that, Michelle?
I would agree. That is one of the things is you can't get as precise and as particular on the invoice and things. And one of the things that I remember having a conversation with one client in particular, because they were just really freaking out over it. And I finally had a little talk with them. I said, when you get a bill from one of your vendors, do you really care that much when it looks? Are you not going to pay the bill because it doesn't look a certain way? Or are you going to pay it? And I said, really, just sleep on it. How critical is it if it's on this line instead of that line, or if it's over a half an inch instead of, there or whatever? And really, we talked about, choose your fight and pick your battles. Just like in anything in life, you have to pick your battles. And, a lot of times,
like parenting.
Exactly. And when you're looking at an accounting package, you may say, what are my 10 most important things? And your invoices, is that really number one most important thing? Is how the appearance is. Are you going to get paid regardless of what it looks like? And most of the time, they're still going to pay you. So you really have to put it in perspective, because it is shocking to them that they can't get it exactly the same. But is it really that critical?
Yeah, I guess that kind of boils down to like the branding, first impressions type of thing where we're with regards to that. But I can spot a QuickBooks user just by the invoice that they send me.
Oh yeah,
That's from Desktop 2021, or like that, or they haven't gone in and customized their invoice from Desktop.
And customizing it is important. And you got to get the logo on there. You want to get the colors on there. You want to try to get the fonts right, and you want to get the colors and things right. And you do have to put a PO number on there if that's required, and certain things that you do have to get right. But certain formatting to be exactly, they just won't give up. And part of it is just the change. They just don't like the change. And that's what it comes down to. There's really no real reason. They just don't like the change. But it is a lot different. But it is shocking.
Yeah, Jen is mentioning in the chat that progress invoicing formatting is really important, especially for those that are doing like a third or a portion invoicing.
Yeah.
They want to see that, or the customers kind of demand to see that as well. So that has been part of the frustration of this new experience. But the main goals, besides the payment enhancements, is you're able to customize it while you're editing the transaction. So you don't have to go navigating somewhere else to the sales form customization center to be able to modify on the screen. There's I call it a 360 degree view, where you'll be able to see what's on the screen, what the payer will view when you email the invoice. What does that look like? And then what does it look like when they go to pay it? Because that's ultimately that, you want to be able to speak to what those look like for your customers, right? When they say, I never got it, or what am I looking for? To be able to see what that looks like right there on the screen before you send it is nicer than now I got to go check my own inbox because I maybe BCC'd myself or something like that, so I can see what you see when I send it to you. And then some of those features that are currently are unavailable. And I think that's part, and I think that's what is the root of the matter of the frustration around this sort of change. We're just going to contemplate, and for my history working into it, this sort of thing, and especially because it's QuickBooks Online, they're not going to wait for a yearly release for these things where they can 2 months prior to that, they can beta test these sort of things. With QuickBooks Online, these changes can be implemented rapidly. And to its credit, some of the feedback that has occurred about this new invoice experience has already been implemented. And that's part of the double-edged sword of doing things in an online product, right? So you make some changes, you hear from the customers that are using them and prioritize and implement that feedback. And they are making those changes. Like a lot of the initial grumblings about it have taken place and are already part of the new experience, right? So let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, right? So the good view, I would put it in the good is the 360 view, right? So you're going to see these 4 tabs at the top: edit, email view, PDF view, and payor view. So edit is what you can do directly on the screen. So you can make those changes, and we'll go through a high level demo as well inside of QuickBooks. Email view is what the customer sees in their emailed invoice. PDF view is what the transaction looks like as a PDF. So when they download it and view it, what does that look like? And then payor view is what the screen should look like when the customer would click review and pay. And then one of the major changes is this whole idea of adding on PayPal and Venmo. And this is part of, I think, part of the confusion, because not only is Venmo and PayPal confusing in and of itself, but now adding this as an option in your invoices adds another layer of complexity to that, right? Look, they already have a PayPal or Venmo account that they accept payments through. That makes it a little bit more challenging, right? So PayPal and Venmo can be additional payment methods when you're receiving a payment if you're using QuickBooks Payments, right? If your invoices are payment enabled using QuickBooks Payments, then as long as you're on this new format, you're able to check off the ability to have PayPal be a payment method. So that doesn't mean that you have to sign up for a PayPal or Venmo business account. Because part of the challenge of PayPal is sometimes people use that to skirt paying the fees. Oh, just PayPal it to me or Venmo it to me. But actually that's a violation of the terms of service, because PayPal and Venmo from person to person is free, right? But if you're paying for services, it's not, right? Then that turns into more of a merchant account type of thing where the transactional fees are necessary. In essence, you have to have a Venmo business account and a Venmo personal account for either of those two things. And sometimes people would take a Venmo payment as a way to just put it in the person, and then that scares the whole idea. But again, that sort of business practice is outside of the terms of service for the person to person type of thing. So that means that people need to have business account, a PayPal, and a Venmo, which then can be confusing. Michelle, were you going to say something or add something to that?
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I've discovered it's another way for more problems with commingling business and personal. Now that we've got clients using Venmo for business and personal, in addition to all the other things where they commingle business and personal, it just makes it even harder for us to identify and track business and personal. Now that they've got this in there, it makes it harder. And I see people agreeing with me because they don't do that. It's just yet one more place where we have to go look for commingled business personal transactions.
Yeah. And especially if you have this, if you have multiple entities or something tied to your one PayPal or Venmo email address, then the resulting funding or transactions needs to be, it's just more convoluted, right? So this avoids having to set up a PayPal or Venmo account to be able to receive payments. So now the fees are going to be consistent with QB payment, with the credit card. And if you're on the new pricing, the screenshot that I'm showing here is my own account. And I'm not on the new pricing yet, which I noticed by doing this. Hey, I thought I was supposed to get a better rate, but it's actually 2.8% for emailed invoices and no transactional fee. After this webinar, guess who I'm calling? Intuit Payment. Why am I not on the new structure yet? All credit card payments are, whatever that is the same fee structure for PayPal and Venmo. And then it does not need for you to set up a separate account, because the experience of that payment coming in, as regardless of however it was paid, whether by credit card, Venmo, PayPal, is going to happen the same way, right? So it's all going to go into the payments to deposit or undeposited funds automatically, because your payment is recorded as soon as it's paid, regardless of how it's going to get paid. And then once it's funded, it will be deposited in your QuickBooks. The fees will be tracked, and in a perfect world, the deposit will be auto reconciled when it goes into your bank account, right? So you don't need these Venmo or PayPal business accounts, which will help, to Michelle's point, segregate out the money coming in versus the PayPal account that they might be using for expenses. And worst case, if they use personal Venmo or personal PayPal for expenses, that makes it even worse. So this is a nice new feature, right? Because I do like QuickBooks payments and the experience that you have, because once you email the invoice, you're done, right? Assuming that they pay it, right? Once they pay it, the payment, the deposit, the fees are tracked, and it's auto reconciled, everything after that, right? One action ultimately creates multiple transactions inside of QuickBooks. So now we want to understand and unpack in this experience, where did blank go? When you ask, I just was used to the more button for the transaction journal, because more doesn't make sense in my opinion. Or like that's like a miscellaneous button at the bottom. So they're being a little bit more explicit into what these things actually turn into and where to actually find it. So most functionality is still there. It's just in a different place. So everything is going to be on the right side. There's going to be a manage gear, because there's not enough gears inside of QuickBooks. It's not fine. So we need to make more gears, but this one actually has a label. So you don't have to call it the baby gear or the big gear or the gear in the upper right. It's the one that says manage. So when you click on manage, you'll get this slider from the right, and it will have most of the things that were available from before, right? So you have the link to the settings, right? So you don't have to go navigate the accounts and settings to change your sales preferences in order to impact the things that are on the screen. You can go for it right from here. Actions is where you're going to find most of the things that were previously under the more menu at the bottom. And those are going to be actions to take, like copying, voiding, deleting, viewing the transaction journal or the audit history. Status That's just going to be what the current last status of it is. And all of these are expandable so that if you need more information, you can do that. Customization. This is part of a confusion because you have customization and design. Customization is more for fields and columns. What do you see on the screen? And then of course, payment options. We'll talk about those. Design is more for how does it look, right? Colors, fonts, those types of things. Now, the 360 view is only going to be available in the new modern experience, which now seems for a lot of people, hey, this is a step back. I had 6 designs to choose from, and now I only have modern again. This happens a lot when there's a fundamental change like this. Intuit has to take the foundational things and then this is one of those things that has gone away, but not forever. They have to lay out a foundation of the feature set, and then they can add on once they've, I don't want to say perfected, or at least improved or enhanced that experience with that foundation. So I would fully expect that the friendly or the airy or whatever the design that you were using is still there. Now, that being said, all of your other templates are still there. They just don't have this 360 view if you were to use the older template that you'll have. And you'll see those alerts and those types of things. And then scheduling is where you would set up recurring transactions and automatic payment reminders. It's an invoice as well as print later. Hold on a second. Going too far. And then there's a place there to access customer reports right from the invoice. Very similar to with that side panel on desktop where it comes in, shows related transactions and those types of things. All right. I want to ask this polling question. Do you feel that these changes Intuit's making is a hindrance to your practice? Where is it? Watch it. There we go. And then there's a follow-up as to why do you feel that way, right? So the crucial workflows are being affected, it's changes, increases. I can see this change is going to affect a customer, and then the customer is either going to call Intuit or they're going to call their accountant. So that could be an increased call volume to the accountant because they're their first person that they talk to, which is now a distraction of your focus of work. So, Michelle, do we have any questions?
We do, Dan. Initially, so first of all, we have a question I think you're going to get to in just a minute. I think when people first start using it, there's the frustration because everything's changed and they don't know where to find things and how to do things. And that's always a frustration for everybody. Then there's the frustration of, I can't get it to look the way I want it to look. So that's a frustration. One of the things I found is after I started working with it, being able to do those customizations and the under the manage and doing all those things right there all together. It is more convenient and it is time saving having that all together where you can do the invoice on the left and you have those settings and the customization things over there on the right-hand side under the manage where you can do some of those things. Having it all together is more convenient, but how do I avoid an invoice now? How do I see the audit trail? Like you said, where the work go?
Yeah.
How do I see the transaction journal or the audit trail? And I know you're going to show that. Those kinds of things
we'll show that in a second.
Find things. How do I do this? That's where the frustration comes in. I can't find how do I do this? How do I do that? That's where the frustration comes in. And I know you're going to help show them how to do that to alleviate some of that frustration.
That is my main goal of doing this webinar today is that helping you find where Intuit moved the cheese. There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese. I actually worked there. They gave it to everybody. A foreshadowing of, hey, if you don't like the way things are, wait a week, they'll change, right? So things are going to change in these things. And if anybody loves change, it's accountants and bookkeepers. That is sarcasm. So those things are diametrically opposed. And so when something like this changes and it's a core workflow, that causes quite a bit. So let's go ahead and dive into this. I did write a pretty snarky blog about these initial changes. There's a link to it on our website as well. Imagine that. But I love this image of this person looking at this update layout. Should I do this? Should I click this sort of thing? But we have a video on there and we talk through a lot of things that we're talking about today. But let's just jump into QuickBooks. Go ahead and pop over here. Hopefully it's not as slow as it was yesterday. Go ahead and pop on into your Invoice. First thing is you have this 360 view up here at the top. Click on it. Oh no, it's unavailable with this template, right? Someone had mentioned, well, can I use my old templates? You can still use your old templates. You just don't have the PDF view, the payor view, or the email view of what that's going to actually look like. So here's our manage button, right? So everyone down here was like, where to go, where the make recurring button go, where'd the more button go? They're here. Everything should be, it's there. It's going to be under this manage button, right? Because now this slider shows up. I've got 4 options here. I only have 4 options on new invoices. But if I were to go into a previous one, into this one, right now I have, this was a previously recorded transaction. So I have more information and more options here on a previously recorded transaction. My actions, right? So now I have receive payment, which was a button in the upper right of the invoice. So any kind of action that I want to take on this invoice is going to be under here, right? Making a copy, deleting, voiding, and then our favorite, audit history and the transaction journal, right? So these were things that were missing for a period of time, but they found their way back into this action. So this is where I would suspect that if there was anything that, and anything that is still missing, converting estimates to purchase orders. That's one of those things that you can't do, that you used to be able to do on estimates, will show up here, right? So the actions is the first place to look. And of course, they made it the smallest thing to find, right? So if you learn nothing else today, action is where is the former more. So the status, you'll be able to see that it was opened, and then you can view that activity. It's just a larger slider. So this is very similar to the invoice tracker, right? So rather again than going to the sales and invoices to see the path of this, it's right here on the invoice as well. Then we have customization, right? So this is where you're going to add columns. One thing that is still missing from this experience, and I assume that this is going to be expanded, is what you can see on the screen versus what you send to the customer, right? So yeah, you may want to know the service date, but the customer doesn't need to know that. Or if you want to have the shipping address on there just for sales tax purposes, the customer doesn't necessarily need to see that for whatever reason, right? But if you show anything up on here, it's going to show to the customer. So if I actually change the design to our modern design, I will actually be able to see the email view and what the PDF looks like. So actually, I probably didn't save it. The shipping address was blank. Let me fill that in. Go with the PDF. Yep, it did show up over here. And I may have missed it because I was looking for it on the left side if it wasn't there before. But here's your other invoice templates to look at as well. So if you have other sales templates, they would be still listed here, and you could choose it if you wanted to, but now that PDF view and the email view is no longer available. But you can still look at it from this perspective. Your items are listed here. And here, so that's those customizations and design options. So here you're going to have these fields, and you don't have anything else other to choose from unless you're using advanced, and you have a multitude of custom fields to choose from where you could add those to your forms as well. But again, you show them on the screen, they're going to show to the customer unless it says hidden, right? You're going to be able to see the class or location or business, and QuickBooks has made it nice enough to let you know that it's hidden. from the customer. So they won't see your tags. They won't see the location tracking that you might have specified or the class. I would hope and suspect that as feedback is given, that there will be the ability to have that distinction where you can be prescriptive as to what those actually are. Then your payment options, right? So this is where, again, you would enable PayPal, Venmo as a payment option, or turn on and off tips if you're taking those sort of things, bank transfers or credit cards, right? So you can expand those or turn those on and off on an individual transaction if you'd like. But also you're going to have these options for payments of the invoice total, whether you want to show that or not. If you're going to want to use a deposit or take a deposit, you can do that as well. And then just, again, by clicking manage, it takes you right to the preference of where do you want that payment method? What do you want that payment method to be? What do you want that deposit amount to be so that they can pay that deposit? And you can also do these things now on estimate. So if the estimate is requiring a deposit or an upfront deposit, you can accept that from emailing the estimate. So once they've accepted it, they can accept it online and then make that deposit right away. And then you can specify where that's going to be deposited to you, all without leaving the transaction itself. Shipping fees, if you want to add those to the bottom, and then setting up more multi-currency if that's the case. That. And then we talked about design and then scheduling. And I think this is still one of those step backwards types of things, because if I want to make this a recurring invoice, I would click on this and then there. No. Hold on a second. Where did it? Oh, now it brought up another screen. Where before, when I clicked on that, now it's gone. Hold on a second. Go back. Again. Scheduling. Set up a recurring invoice. Yeah. So now this experience is odd because now it's taken me to a brand new invoice instead of doing it right on. The last time I clicked on it, it just expanded just like the activity where I could set up those changes right there. But this is actually creating a brand new one, which now takes more time, which is again, not an improvement when you're taking more time to do the things that you were doing before. Like Hector would say, we're not valuable and precious seconds we're wasting here. But also you're going to have whether or not you go ahead.
And I'm sorry. On that recurring invoice, on the recurring invoice, I did see where you could include unbilled charges. Can you still have it automatically send and automatically include unbilled charges, like your delayed credits and things like that, so that you can automatically have it send those recurring invoices and unbilled charges and credits and things, your delayed charges and credits and unbilled things? I thought I saw that box on there that said include unbilled.
Yes.
Okay.
That was for the recurring. That was for the recurring setup. Yes, that's actually a workaround, because when we talk about what you can't do, price rules is one of those things that has fallen off. And this is one of those things, and the challenge when you don't realize, or they don't realize, Intuit doesn't really realize the impact that these changes are making to the people who are using the functionality until they make this change and they hear from those people that are doing it. Oh, I didn't know that we couldn't do that. That's actually one of the workarounds that I'll talk about in a second. And then the invoice reminders, you can set up automatic reminders to send an email to the customer 3 days before it's due, or on the due date, or 3 days after it's due. So that is a time saver when if something is due. You don't want to be hounding them in managing that from within your QuickBooks. If you could just have QuickBooks send an auto reminder if it's not been paid. Right. Now that can get complicated if they're not paying you through payment, right? So that means if they sent you a check and they paid it, and you're sending them a reminder to pay it, you want to make sure that you marked it as paid inside of QuickBooks so that you don't get the reminder. But you can't change the frequency here, right? It's either going to be 3 days before or going to be all potential, right? 3 days before on the due date and 3 days after, unless you're using advanced and you set up your own workflow templates to be able to send out those auto reminders for you. But this is a Plus company, doesn't have those workflows built in. And then we have access to customer reports. So your open invoices and all transactions are listed right here. So that's the sidebar, right? Where most things are going to be available to do. And as things are added, we see on Facebook, Modern is the only invoice where we get to see the previews. And that's true, right? So as long as you only have this Modern view, Modern template to be able, or style, I guess that's probably a better way to describe it. You have to use this template, the Modern template, in order to see those email view PDF views. So if you're not using them, using one of your older templates, you won't see that here. But that's
I did
where
discover that, and I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. I wish you could see the email view and the PD view of my templates as well, because I don't like that.
Yeah. My guess is, because you can look in here, like this, my invoice template. This was something that I imported. So back when you had the lab and you can turn on being able to import from a Word doc, that was the solution by Intuit to say, hey, if you really want it to look a certain way, make it in Word and import that into QuickBooks, which this is like the Pandora's box, right? This could be anything. As long as it's mapped appropriately, it'll look right. But I can see that the email view and the PDF view is probably too difficult to put in here if you're using something like that in your template design. So you'll have Modern. You have Modern for now, but I would fully expect and suspect that you'll see other styles in here eventually that are totally customizable. Right? So let's talk a little bit about what you can't do, right? The bad, right? So known limitations. So reference links that are displayed for matched online transactions don't show. Price rules is you can still create and manage price rules, but the new invoice experience currently doesn't support those price rules. Now I'll talk about that because I think I have a workaround for the time being. Adding previous attachments, I'm not 100% sure what that actually means, which if you had what qualifies as a previous attachment, you can still attach things, right? So if I go into down here, you've got your attachment here. So I don't know what qualifies as a previous attachment. Billable mileage tracking. So if you are using the mileage tracker to track your mileage through the app, and you make that billable, it won't bill that back to the customer currently. And then copying estimates to purchase orders is missing from estimate. And then with the mobile app, multi-currency. So this is only when you're using the invoicing experience on the mobile app itself, multi-currency, classic sales tax, and subtotals, right? So if you're using those functions, don't do it in the app, but you can go to the website and use those as well. I know on a phone, you only have so much real estate, but if you can go to the QBO website in the mobile browser and use those functions, which might be a little challenging to do on a smaller device, maybe an iPad would be better for that if it's necessary. So I want to talk a little bit about the price rules, the workaround that I discovered here. So the issue here is that you can have a price rule. We go into the rules here. Actually, I'm going to go back to my example company here. That's where I have these rules set up. Wait, price rules is a list, right? And this is available from all lists from the big year. You've got your price rules. I've got a 10% discount here, and I'm going to take a look at it. It's 10% for all customers and all inventory items. That's a 10% percentage decreased, no rounding, and I don't have dates associated with that. right? So if I go to a new invoice, show the problem first, and no, not doing that. Okay. Let's do the customer 1, 2, 3 schedules. And then we'll put in this inventory item. My rate is not inclusive of that 10%, right? My regular price was $10.69. And here it is, right? So I don't have the ability to change that, right? Or see what the other price levels were to be able to choose that price level. So if I am using price rules, they're really, it's not available. So from this workflow, which is super frustrating for those that are using it, that I can't use it. What I was pondering here is that there is an unused feature, because I know it's unused because nobody ever knew about it when I told them about it, was that, let's see here, without saving, this not new feature, has been there forever. Delayed credits and delayed charge. They still are in the old template, right? So this is the old experience of QuickBooks, of those sales transactions. So if I choose the exact same thing, 1, 2, 3 schedule, we need to delete those items. And I'll add that first item again, the 5 beach mint. It automatically put in the price rule, which was 10% off of $10.69. And I have this drop down to choose the different price. So I have my default rate. I have my test 10% discount to choose. And if I have any other rules for that matter, they would be available here to choose from, right? So this has already given me the right price for that customer based off of that rule. So if I go ahead and do a bunch of other ones, right? So these are a different inventory item, choosing the test discount and price rule. Choose another one. It's an expensive candy, by the way. Those are choosing the right price based off of the rule that you had set up. So I'd save and close. So now if I go and create an invoice, now granted, this is an extra step in this whole process, but it's unusable at all when you're using price rules on the new invoice experience. So now I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3 schedule, right? And there's my charges, my delayed charge number 5 for $29.13. I can view it, pop out to a new window to make sure that this is exactly what I was referring to. There's those 3 items. Hooray. I just click add. And now the price that it brought in is the price rule price from the delayed charge. And it's now got a link back to that delayed charge. So this is a way that you could actually still use price rules while Intuit is compiling the feedback about, how do we get price rules to show up back on the sales transaction anyway, to be able to use price rules as part of the new invoice experience. Because once you cross the threshold and update to the new experience as of May 6th, that ship has sailed of switching back and forth. And I've seen people have been making have part of an open investigation or an escalation through Intuit where they rolled it back for them. But you don't have the ability to flip flop back and forth between these two. So this is a way to work through this process. The root of workaround is work. So it does add an extra step, wasting precious seconds, but it's better than wasting precious hours and getting nowhere by trying to get Intuit to roll it back for you. So that's the way to handle that. So that was something that I wanted to make sure that people were aware of. Michelle, was there any other questions that went through? And we're probably not even going to talk about the modern reports. We'll probably have to save that.
For another power hour. Come to my session on Sunday. It's hearing that. And Alicia's got a session on reports there too. Anyway, okay. Danielle wants to say, okay, on the new invoice template, do you need to create a new template for the modern view, or can you take your old template? Will it automatically default to the modern view? And my answer to that is no, because I can't view it. in the preview, like you were saying, because it's the
Right.
old format. And so you can't see it in those other views, like you were saying. Is there a way to
Right.
convert it to modern view or anything without starting over or anything?
Not currently. But I would suspect through feedback, that these things will come to the surface. And that is the main thing that listen, we get it. We understand that it's totally frustrating for people. And Michelle and I don't work for Intuit. I used to have a bad. I understand both sides of the fence here. And I hate the answer of send in feedback, but that is the answer. And it's unfortunate that they can't respond to every single piece of feedback, but it's important to have your voices heard. And when you send in feedback, make it actionable, right? This sucks is not actionable feedback. This is reactionable feedback. I love the saying that I heard from a data analyst when I worked there. He said, in God we trust, all others bring actionable data.
That's it. Or verify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust, but verify. So all of these
Yep.
things about that. So if you can provide a screenshot, if you can give steps to duplicate, that is actionable feedback that somebody can actually see the problem and then work on ways to remedy that. Michelle, were you going to add something to that?
I had a question for you. I was answering some questions in the chat and Q&A or whatever. And so I probably missed this. I'm sure I did. Did you show us how to get to the more audit trail and some of those things?
Yeah.
Because that's important. I know
Yes,
everybody
that's all
likes
gonna
to
be-
see that. All those
that's all
things that
gonna be
used to be at the
under-
bottom, where you saw them at the bottom before, how do we access those things now?
Yes, that's going to be on the action dropdown. So you're going to have your audit history.
There they are. See that
Which,
little tiny action button. I would have been looking for hours and other people too. So thank
Right.
you, Dan, for pointing that out.
And it's not like it's huge. Like that
So you better
that
show
action
it
dropdown
again.
is very huge. It's very small.
I'm sure you need to show that again because I'm sure somebody
Yeah.
missed that. So could you please do that again? This is if you want to delete the invoice, void the invoice, see the transactions log, audit trail, right? What else is in there?
Spinning wheel.
All right.
Yeah, here.
You think that's bad? Flip down the link in the Ozarks and try it on a hotspot. Mine's really slow. Okay.
All right.
Everybody
So
look real close.
on
right
a
up there at the
saved-
top.
on a saved transaction, this little tiny thing here. Let me just make sure I've got the right button. Yes, I can zoom in. This guy gives you the ability
Here
to
it
see or
is.
make a copy, delete, void, audit history, and your transaction journal. So this is the where did it go thing, right? And it's this tiny thing, but this is a consistency from other areas of QuickBooks Online. The things that are inconsistent across different workflows. This is actually a consistent thing, right? So you have that action drop down over on the right for pretty much every other table, right? So whether you're looking at sales or bills or customer transactions or vendor transactions, you have that edit drop down and action column. So this is a consistency. So kudos to it for making something consistent inside of it. It's on the right. It's called actions. Hooray. But just as soon as you got used to more at the bottom,
Mhm.
now they go ahead and move it. But they've also done
Well,
it
you're
with this save, right? So save is now all in one drop down or drop up, I guess. In this case, is at the bottom. You got your save and new, save and close, and just save. And then this other green option, which did have save and close, save and new. Now it's just review and send and share a link. So I would suspect you'll see some changes to this as well, because save was always the God's country of green. Money's going to come in if I save it. But save, and if you're asking, well, where's save and close? It's not under here anymore. Now it's under the save stacked option. Did you have another? Yeah, too many clicks. That is the challenge of this. And I think as time goes on, either Hector and Mark with Right Tool are going to save us those clicks, or Intuit will actually be able to consolidate the feedback and make those changes. Any other questions that we might have missed there, Michelle?
Somebody wanted to know if you could remove the product and description column from the invoice in this new format.
Nope.
So that you just have like a
one thing you can't do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's
right. I know that's one of the problems I want plates about. Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a step back. This is one of those step back things. And on the sales form template, you still have the option, I believe. This is something I'll double check, but I think you should be able to still go into the modern style and make some changes to it as far as your column width and activity rows and those types of things. But I'll play around with that and maybe report back on that as well, because we are at the top of the hour. I did want to throw up the last poll. If you don't see it, after this webinar, has your opinion of today's topic changed? So has this helped? Is really what I'm asking. Is this better made a positive impact to you? Because again, the main thing that we want to ensure is send feedback to Intuit about the new experience so that your experience can actually be better as well. But don't expect them, just because you entered in feedback, to take action the following day. So it's going to take a lot of feedback to prioritize and back, and then see what it will actually take to make those changes. Because the worst thing they want to do is break something else that's in service to trying to fix something. That's our webinar today. We appreciate you. Michelle, any closing thoughts?
We've had a lot of complaints about that change and how Intuit keeps changing all these things and stuff. And it reminded me, I think his name was Shane Hennessy, one of the product managers. And I remember at one of the conferences, Shane was up there presenting how the drawer would slide out when you're entering an invoice, so you could see comments about them or anything like that about customer, because that was the most requested thing that people had been putting in, right? And then at the next year's conference, the most requested thing was, turn it up, I hate it. So the poor product managers, they never win. We are never happy. So they do our best to work feedback, and they continue to send your feedback. Intuit continues to listen. They never get it right the first time. So keep sending your feedback. Dan, thank you for telling us all these little things and the little buttons that we can't find because they just don't show up until you point them out to us. Thank you for helping us with all that, as always. And thank you, everybody. And sending that feedback.
I love Karen's note there. I'm getting even more excited about my decision to retire. Too much change is certainly too much sometimes. All right. See you next time on the QB Power Hour. And if you're coming to Scaling New Heights, we hope to see you there as well. Everybody have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at qbpowerhour.com.